Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Canadian Football Central, CFL content for the fans, by the fans, and we have our Week 14 preview coming right up. We got 4 very, very interesting games and 2 rematches from Labor Day weekend. And I'm excited for this week as the Battle of Alberta continues over in Edmonton. And what I'm really excited about, the Banjo Bowl is in Winnipeg for this coming week. Both of those games happen on the Saturday. We have a triple header on Saturday, and for at least those 2 games, a little bit of the fallout of Labor Day weekend continuing into the following weekend. Rick, how are you feeling? How are you doing on this wonderful day?
I'm good because I don't have to worry about my team losing this week.
I was about to say, and you have to worry about your team losing a lot of weeks, so you don't have to worry about them doing it this week. And you're able to ride on that Labor Day high.
Yes. Interesting note.
Yep.
Because NFL season has now begun, there's no Thursday games anymore. There's no Sunday games anymore.
For college football, though. I think Sunday is because of college.
There's one Monday game because that's Thanksgiving.
I see.
But other than that, we have Fridays and Saturday doubleheaders now. And this weekend, triple header Friday, football Friday, or football Saturday.
Football Saturday, because we'll start with the Friday here, where the BC Lions take on the Montreal Alouettes. Now, I think this is a bit interesting in the sense of that if you would have asked me a few weeks ago, or even 1 week ago, hell, who I would have thought was winning this game, I would say Montreal without, like, no contest, you know what I mean? And it can still very well be Montreal. However, BC now that Nathan Rourke has had that game where he has seemingly gotten back into form and has shown what he is capable of, it's like the BC Lions, when Nathan Rourke is playing the way he can be in a very, very dangerous team. I mean, you saw the way that they were able to put up 38 points almost unopposed against the Red Blacks last game. Again, Red Blacks have been a very, very good teams this year, despite all of the doubts and kind of their performance in prior seasons. I think they kind of go a little under the radar and people not realizing just how good this Red Blacks team is. And the Alouettes have been just an absolute powerhouse throughout this season. And then they had made a big signing with Austin Mack and signing him for 4 years, which it's been a while in the CFL since we've seen that. Sounds a little bit like the Mike Riley deal in that regard. But with this, how do you feel for both the Lions and the Alouettes going into this game, Rick?
So even though we've only seen, let me just pull up the numbers. I think he's only played 2 games, if I'm not mistaken.
Who?
Nathan Rourke.
I believe this was his 3rd game. I thought. Because they play, because he played against Winnipeg.
Okay, yeah. So he's played
Ottawa twice.
Okay, so he's played 3 games.
Yeah.
And he's lost 2.
However, the one that he won was also the most recent one.
No, but what I'm saying is, so like, he's only beaten Ottawa. He hasn't played. Let me just pull up.
The Alouettes are absolutely the biggest kind of adversary in terms of.
That's what I mean. Like, he hasn't played the top defense in the league yet.
That's true. That is true.
Oh,
however, I do think it's important to note that beating Ottawa is not a small feat with the way the Red Blacks have been able to play this season.
And just a correction from our review video, CFL.ca does have Montreal clinching a playoff.
Oh, they
spot.
do? Okay.
Yes, they do.
Okay, that's good. Just because I remember we kind of had a back and forth on that. Just because I wasn't sure. Just because I had kind of heard conflicting.
Yeah, just because I was just looking at the standings and they have an X now behind Montreal's name.
Okay, so Montreal has clinched, which I mean, it's funny. It's not that important, and what I mean by not that important is whether they clinched last week, like we were wondering, or this week. Or whatever, it wasn't going to... Montreal was realistically winning the East. So I don't really see this changing anything. Do you know what I mean? But
Also,
they do clinch. So first team in the CFL to clinch playoff
I
spot.
don't know if he plays this week, but BC Lions have brought back Jalen Edwards Cooper.
I see. That's something that we won't know till a little bit closer to.
He's the American defense back.
I see. Yeah,
But
like
what we do know is Vernon Adams was taken second team reps today. So Nathan Rourke will be starting this week. That we do know for sure.
Nathan Rourke will be starting after a pretty strong performance for the Lions this last game. 325 yards. That passing percentage probably wants to be a little bit higher. It goes 21 for 30, so a little bit above 66%. So probably wants to do a little bit better there. Again, though, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, average of 10.8 yards on average. So good job for him in that regard. William Stanback was all right last week. He was able to get 93 yards. It was on 20 rushes, but was able to get 93, and he was leading the team both rushing and receiving last week. Now, interesting thing for Montreal here, they have Labor Day weekend off, and the Alouettes get a little bit of time to rest up. For those who do not remember, their last game was against the Elks. They had won that game, I believe it was 21-17.
What's that?
21-17 against the Elks, the Alouettes.
Yes.
Week
Week
12. I'm looking here for the Alouettes. In that game, Cody Fajardo, 22 for 34. And then goes 336, 9.9 yards on average, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Still good, but not quite as good as Rourke's numbers last game. Speaker with a big game for them. And the Alouettes have done a very, very good job at having almost the Swiss Army knife of a receiving core, in the sense of that no matter who it is that's gone in, they've been able to do a lot of damage with it. Whether it was Speaker, whether it was Rambo, whether it was Bahar, whether it was Fletcher, whether it was, and Austin Mack is a guy that probably will get into that at some point. I mean, I would find it hard to believe that he doesn't. Not necessarily saying that it happens this early, but at some point he will become a threat. And if we're looking at the Alouettes as well, guys like Tyson Philpott have been able to do very, very well for them. Letcher Jr., like tons of these guys have been able to have these standout games where they've been able to do a lot of damage for that receiving core. So it's going to be really, really important that the BC Lions defense comes up big. As pretty much whoever Fajardo is going to be throwing to is going to be a threat in this game.
Keep in mind that now showing up on the injury list is Julian Grant and Tyler Snead, which means that they could be coming off the 6th game within the next couple of weeks. Yeah, so that makes them even more of a threat.
Yeah. So overall, I don't know how I'm feeling about this one. I'm aiming more towards the Alouettes. I mean, it's kind of hard not to. I mean, this team is 10-1 for a reason. Lions 6-6, but also last game was, for the Lions, it was a good sign to come. Being able to have Rourke come back and finally start putting up some numbers that are closer to what you're looking for a guy that you're just spending an absolute ton of cash on, and so. It was finally last game where it really started to feel like, okay, if this is the way he plays, maybe now we're starting to get closer to having him be worth that money that he signed that big deal for. Hopefully Nathan Rourke has a better media appearance in this game, as last game's was a little comically short. But, I mean, if I'm looking into this game, I guess in terms of maybe lasting considerations before I necessarily make a pick, we really probably should have already actually went through. What do we have for injury reports? I know we're a little limited on some of this stuff.
The only ones that did not practice for Montreal were Christian Matty, Brock Gowlock, and Keon Julian Grant. Everyone else on their list was full. For BC that did not practice, Jarrell Broxton, offensive line, Ben Halik,
Broxton's a unit. That guy is absolutely just huge.
Isaiah Messam,
Yep,
linebacker, Marcus Moore, Tyler Packer, and Jordan Perryman.
I see. So overall, I'd say probably not a ton in terms
I
of
I
real
am not
hitters.
a BC homer.
Yep,
Nathan Rourke has only shown up one game and shown that
that is very
he can
true.
win that game.
That is
I am
very true.
going with the BC. I'm not going with the BCNs. I'm going with the Montreal Alouettes.
Yeah,
Defense
that's the
wins
thing.
games.
For yeah, that's true. Well, you know what it is? It's when I look at this BC Lions team, I see all the tools to success, but BC, they were able to do so much with it, but then they really went on quite a skid. And they play a really good game last week, and they finally break that trend and they get back in the win column. However, getting in the win column and staying in the win column are two different things. I mean, if we look at this BC Lions team, that's kind of sums up the start of the season in the sense of that they got themselves into the win column, but then after they got a bit of a lead, they couldn't stay in that win column and they started sliding down and down and down and down and down and down. And this was with Vernon Adams Jr. up there, who was still putting up very, very good numbers. But it wasn't enough to get it done. I mean, they kept slipping and slipping and slipping and slipping and slipping. And the Alouettes consistently through this year, no matter how much trouble they may have in a certain quarter or in a certain half or whatever it is, or on a certain drive, they always find a way to get it done. There's a reason this team's 10-1. And I think at the end of this week, they're going to be 11-1. I'm going with the Montreal Alouettes. So, does that mean, Rick, we should get into the next one, please?
We should.
Which means that we're going to be going into... actually, nope, never mind. I was really, really excited there, and then I realized it's the third game of the week. I got my times mixed up. And the second game of the week...
Olive Ontario at 1 o'clock.
Yeah. So the next game of the week will be the Alouettes take on the Red Blacks at noon Central.
This is... First off, it's the Argos that take on the Red Blacks, not the Alouettes.
Oh, sorry. I meant Argos. I saw Argos. I read Argos. I just said Alouettes. Whoops. The Argos take on the Red Blacks.
Before
the Argos coming off a loss to the Ticats and the Red Blacks coming off a loss to the Lions. Yes, Rick?
Before we get into the preview, let's describe the elephant in the room, folks. Ottawa releases Armstead and signs Jamal Morrow. You release your rushing leader to bring in someone that has not played at all.
Now, you know what the
my
thing
understanding,
is?
My understanding behind this is that Raquel Armstead was a hothead on the sidelines as of late.
Fair enough.
From what people have said, and people have tried to calm him down, but when he has 623 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns in 11 games, and you bring in Jamal Morrow, this is like the third time people have tried to sign him. He finally cleared medical.
Yeah.
I mean, this far into the season.
Like, it could work out. I will say, if the Ottawa Red Blacks released him due to behavioral reasons, I'm not going to lie, I respect that. There's something about a team kind of standing on its morals, even if it means that a good guy has to go. So I can respect that. I can respect having kind of that no tolerance. No one's... No one is from in terms of a team standpoint, if he's a very good player, releasing him, bit of a interesting call there. I do hope if that was the reason the Red Blacks looked at other options first and trying to really trying to work with this guy and trying to turn that around before they necessarily pulled the trigger on it. But in terms of if they released him due to behavioral reasons, I mean, it's at the end of the day, if I go to my workplace and I show up and I'm being unprofessional, I get fired. That's what happens. So
I
him
mean,
getting
that's
kind of some,
according to Farhan today, anyways.
if that's true, this is all hypothetical. If
But
that is
at the
the
same,
case, I
the
understand. I
funny thing
respect that.
is, don't forget,
Mhm.
Toronto earlier in the season did release Richard Bailey, and he was their top one receiver
This is
at the
Rashid
time.
Bailey. You're talking about Rashid Bailey?
Yeah, when Toronto released him, he had the most receiving yards on Toronto at the time, if not number two. And Toronto released him,
Yeah.
and it's just like, why? Like, I
Okay.
don't get some of these decisions that some of these people are making.
Yeah.
Like you said, the whole attitude thing, I
Well,
do
the
get,
the
but
attitude thing, although I will say, I have heard that before about Armstead. Again, I don't know if all that's true. But I have heard something along those lines. So it shocks me, but also doesn't. But at the end of the day, um, I respect them standing on their morals in that sense.
so
Now
another,
going into this game,
yes,
both teams coming off a loss. Toronto coming off a loss to a resurgent Ticats,
yes.
and the Red Blacks coming off of a loss to a resurgent Lions. So both teams with pretty similar weeks last week, with the exception of that the Argonauts made their game a lot closer. Um, the Red Blacks here, they take a hit in the running department.
Hmm.
And Toronto with Kadeem Carey. Kadeem Carey is a capable running back, even though there's been a lot of games where he's just being kind of okay. Um, I don't I don't look at this guy and say that he's not capable. If we even look at last game, 12 rushes, 78 yards, on average 6.5. That average of 6.5 is solid. There's a lot of guys in this past week that even though they got more yards, they were averaging only like 4.7. And so when I look at that average for Kadeem Carey, that average is fine. I have no problems with that.
Hmm.
Now with Chad Kelly has really last game soaked a lot of hits where he gets outside that pocket and he tries to run it, and some of them he goes for the slide. One of those times he goes for the slide pretty late and he takes a bit of a hit, but again, that's the fault of going for the
Now,
slide
when you're
late.
talking
And
last
then
game, you're talking,
some of them he just tries bull rushing and then he gets pretty knocked around again. The most notable of those plays is the one where he basically does a front flip on the 2 point conversion. That's
okay,
just
so you're talking
one.
about Labor Day.
That's just one example, though. There were
Hmm.
many other times where he seemingly went for a little bit of a run. I mean, if you look at it, he went for 6 rushes for 39 yards. It's not like this guy didn't rush. This guy was hardly rushing. He rushed quite a decent amount. Um, and then, like, if I'm looking at the receiving core here, Unger the third, really, he's really had a few good games. Daniels, solid game last week, made some really good catches. One touchdown for him, and then Coxie, he's done decent. And if we're talking about the kicking department, Howard has just been money. Again, there's that one game where he misses it, hits the Rouge, and wins the game on that. But again, I think part of
Hmm.
that is just because he wasn't even he didn't kick that ball the same way he kicked most balls, because he's less concerned about the aim and more about just getting it through the back of the end zone. Because you got to play with the rules the way they are, not the way that you want them to be. So Howard is a very capable kicker. Lewis Ward has been solid for the Red Blacks. He's been good. He has missed some here and there, but overall, I would not say by any means that this guy is a bad kicker. I mean, even just last game, he hit his longest 53 yards in that game. So again, very much capable kicking on both sides of the ball here. Um, but I think if you're Ottawa, figuring that run situation is going to be really important. As now Armstead's not there. Even last game, it's not like Armstead had a good game. 7 rushes, only 24 yards, average of 3.4, just not what you're looking for. And so I'm curious to see who they have step up in terms of running backs. I'm curious if they try to take a guy like Devontae Dedman, who's done really well as a returner, and try
Um,
to make him more of a speed back. and play
You
with him
do
there.
you do realize that they signed Jamal Morrow today, right?
I know, but it's also this is like less than a week, and they're going to try to get this guy to learn the whole playbook and get in.
Like
Again,
I
and I'm not saying they can't, but like I'm not gonna lie, it's like if you get a guy, you don't have to rush him straight into the lineup. I mean, like Lucky Whitehead, Winnipeg had banging around on the practice roster for 2 weeks before they brought him
I
into
mean,
the roster. As
if
much as I
you're
would have loved to see him go a little earlier, when he came up to the roster, he was clearly prepared, and he had a really good game. And Lucky White has been solid for the Bombers ever since.
look at
BC rushed Nathan Rourke in and immediately takes up 2 losses and plays pretty badly in both of them.
like I'm
So
not saying give the guy like all these plays, but I mean you can make a playbook very simple for a running
here's the
back.
thing: if you're gonna have so here's my question: would you be opposed to the idea of them with Morrow having Morrow learn some of the plays and having Morrow not necessarily play the entire game at running back and almost do kind of like a 50-50, kind of
Yeah,
having him and
I
another guy
wouldn't be
share?
opposed to that, but keep in mind, Toronto doesn't have Winton McManus.
Yep,
And
it's
that
true.
was the big thing against us is without Winton McManus, they had a hard time stopping Greg Bell.
Yep. So here's the thing: do you think a guy like Devontae Dedmon can do really, really well if you have him as a little bit of that speed back and you play him a little bit more at running back than you necessarily would before?
I mean, if you really think about it, what team has not used some type of receiver during running back plays this year?
Well, I
Like
mean, like
Ottawa's used Addison, they've used
hell, Winnipeg uses Nick Dembski for the jet sweep. Whenever
I
Buck Pierce
mean
pulls that out,
Calgary uses Philpott for Pete's sake.
yeah. So I honestly, in my opinion, why not? Because Devontae Dedmon is a very, very capable guy, and I find it hard to believe that this is a guy that can't adjust to that kind of a role. And there are guys that have been able to do very, very well in this league as a speed back. And I'm not even necessarily saying that they need to just continue and roll with it, but until Jamal Morrow is able to get a really, really good handle on all these plays, don't put all this pressure of having him learn 10,000 plays. Have him learn a few, get familiar with those, get comfortable. Have him run some plays with Drew Brown in practice, get those handoffs going, get that chemistry going. And then when it comes to a game situation, throw it at the wall and see what shit sticks. Why not? And
Um,
so
so the
I'm having a hard
question.
time picking who I'm thinking for this
So
game.
here's an interesting stat for you.
Mm-hmm.
Toronto is 1-4 on the road. Ottawa has yet to lose at home. They're 5-1 at home.
See, but is this going to be like the Calgary thing where we say that and then they lose the very next game at home? Because I remember we
And
said the exact
Ottawa.
same thing about Calgary.
So Ottawa's only 1-1 against their division.
Okay.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think those two games were the home and home versus Montreal.
They might
Because
have been.
oh no, sorry, no. They've played Montreal once. They've played us once. So they've beat us but lost to Montreal.
So they're 1 and
So
1
they
in that
haven't
regard.
played Toronto yet.
I
And
really, I really don't know because I could
I
totally see both of
don't
these teams winning.
I know this is going to make some people angry, but I'm going to say it anyways.
I think I know who I'm back on that.
Does the fans get flabbergasted at Chad Kelly again? Because you know it's not just one city. It's
Oh yeah, no, this is not going to go away. Again, I think it'll be more.
no.
It'll be more. It'll be like the voices will be louder when it's in Toronto and Hamilton. But it will absolutely will not go away. At
I mean,
least not. At
don't get me
least
wrong.
not.
You
At
still
least
had
not
a
right now. Not this year.
don't get me wrong. You still had a great game
In future
passing wise.
in future years, I think it'll eventually calm down. I'm not saying it should. I'm saying realistically.
So you
That is
have
probably what will happen. But if I'm thinking about who I'm picking for this game, I'm not gonna lie, I'm leaning towards the Argonauts.
the only thing that I will say about, and it hurts my soul to do this, for the love of God, I've already been chirped by Simone Lawrence for wearing an Argos hat
To be
during
fair,
my
that was
fundraiser.
before. That was to be fair. I think Simone Lawrence said that before he realized
No,
what it
but
was
hold
because
on.
he took that
Let me
down,
get to my
right?
point.
Yeah.
So the reason why I'm picking Toronto this week is because Ottawa has no depth at receivers, and it clearly showed against BC. And in order to win, you have to outscore the other team.
And you just think that they're just a little bit too handicapped there.
To handicap to beat, the only way that they beat Toronto is if this is like a 12, like a 13-12 low scoring game, like a
Like
kicking game.
if that defense gets in and the defense makes that difference.
Because I mean, if you look at it, you're having the third defense in the league, Ottawa, playing against the fourth best defense in the league in Toronto.
That's true. I'm gonna be going with the Argonauts here in terms of who I think is gonna win realistically.
Yeah, it kind of hurts my soul to pick
Oh yeah.
Toronto, but they have a better overall.
So overall, are you ready to get into this nenext one?
The good old.
It's the Banjo Bowl! It's the Banjo Bowl in Winnipeg, September 7th, 3 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. if you live in the city that I don't like called Regina, and 4 p.m. Eastern. Oh, I'm excited for this one. As I'm not going to lie, the pressure is on Saskatchewan to win this game in the sense of that the goal for both teams going into the back-to-back is don't lose both. At least win one of them. Pressure's off Winnipeg a little bit. They've won one of them. Obviously, they want to win in front of that home crowd. But in terms of standings-wise, they've already got the bare minimum what they wanted. And what they kind of were looking for with that one win. Now, with this game, at the time of recording this, which is 8:52 p.m. Central on September the 3rd, 2024, we do not know the status of Zach Collaros and Chris Streveler and of who is going to play this game. However, I will say my pick does not change no matter which one of those it is. As it is important to remember that last game, Chris Streveler was not expected to be playing anything but short yardage and gets thrown into there. Now, even if, let's say Streveler plays today and he plays in this game and he starts, but Buck Pierce has prepared this offense and has prepared his game plan with Streveler leading the charge in mind. If Collaros leads the charge, I'm not going to lie, I think Saskatchewan is fucked 6 ways to Sunday, and it's because Zach Collaros pissed off. So Zach Collaros would be pissed off. There's no question. After taking a shot to the head like that 2 straight years, absolutely. What have we learned about Zach Collaros? Zach Collaros plays his best football when he's pissed off. And so it's like, again, last year, this exact same thing happened, and he beat Saskatchewan by 45 points. I think it was 51-6. I've said it multiple times, but I said it because it was worth saying. And so, if I'm looking into this here, with Streveler at this offense, it definitely is a little hindered. However, in order for Winnipeg to be able to win this game, if Streveler is the one playing it, the defense needs to come up bigger than they did last week. Not that the defense was bad last week, but they certainly were not as shut down as they were against BC. And in some of those prior games, and this is certainly a defense that is capable of that. They didn't get a single pick last game against they sort of did, but it was called pass interference, but not one that actually counted and stuck. So, overall, that's kind of my first 2
I
cents.
will say, not only is this the Banjo Bowl game, this is the tiebreaker game of the series.
Here's the thing, though. Season series doesn't matter because Saskatchewan has a tie already, which means that Winnipeg would have to get a tie, or Saskatchewan would have to get another tie somewhere in the season for this to matter. So I guess it matters maybe in terms of bragging rights, but not in terms of...
And head to head, it would matter.
No, it doesn't.
Not
because
points wise, but head to head, it would.
Yeah, but points is the first like tiebreaker. Like in terms of they have to tie in points before it goes to the head to head, before it goes to the season series in terms of a tiebreaker.
I mean, if everything goes as plans, this could go one of two ways.
Mm-hmm.
Either BC loses, Winnipeg wins, Winnipeg's in first by 2 points. If Saskatchewan wins, BC loses, Winnipeg goes back down to third, and Saskatchewan goes back up to first.
And if Saskatchewan wins and BC loses, Winnipeg drops to second, BC drops to third, Saskatchewan goes up to first.
Well, yeah.
Now, one thing that is important to mention, Winnipeg has the all-time record in Banjo Bowls. Again, Banjo Bowl, a lot newer than the Labor Day Classic. And they hold a all-time lead of 12-7 in Banjo Bowls over the Saskatchewan Roughriders. It is also important to realize that the Winnipeg Blue Bombers have won the last 4 consecutive Banjo Bowls between them and the Riders with a combined score of 173 points for the Bombers in those 4 games to 45. Which is like, ouch. Man, I...
Also keep in mind, again, Saskatchewan has not won since July 19th. So it's not like
Yep.
I think both offenses are, if Zach Collaros plays, that is, both offenses are going to come out swinging.
Yeah, but and again, this is where I think the Winnipeg defense needs to come in huge. If you're Saskatchewan, what's your number one goal? Stop dropping the ball. The amount of drops by these receivers for Saskatchewan last game was actually embarrassing. And I'm not even talking about Mario Alford on the punt. Like, take Mario Alford out of the equation. Sean Bain Jr., Emelis, Schaefer Baker, everyone was dropping that darn ball. And if I'm Saskatchewan, Ajo was getting more time in the field because that guy hardly touched the field and everyone else was dropping it. So if I'm also, Saskatchewan, Ajo is getting more field time here.
First off, it's not just catches. I'm saying this for both teams. Quarterbacks, stop throwing the ball to the players' feet.
Yeah, that was a big problem. And this is both Chris Strevler, Zach Collaros, and Trevor Harris all had this issue last game of throwing at a guy's feet. And so I think it'll be the offense will make a big difference here. In terms of Winnipeg, I think if you're Winnipeg, you're really hoping that Stanley Bryant can come back for this game. That would, of course, take Randolph off of left tackle and pump him down to right guard. Eli then goes out. And so it would allow Winnipeg's O-line to at least be somewhat recovered. It didn't look like it looked like Stanley Bryant was out last game more as a precautionary thing, as they just were wanting to make sure he was totally good before bringing him back after him getting heat stroke in the game against Hamilton. At least everything points towards heat stroke. I don't know if I've seen a official thing out there. Everything points towards heat stroke. But as opposed to, like, say, an injury, like Wallace or like Zach Fry last week or Godwin or whatever it was. And so with Saskatchewan, because those guys that went out for injury-related reasons, I don't know if any of those guys will be back. If I'm making any guess of any of them that could be back, I would say Godber, as when they came out for the second half of that game, right in front of where I was, because I was behind the Rider bench, and Godber was doing some practice reps with a coach, just kind of getting up, doing some light blocks, seeing how that leg is feeling, and it looked like he was kind of, maybe.
Yeah.
And so with a whole week's rest, I think he might be ready. So Godber, I could realistically see coming back. Zach Fry, I do not see him coming back within a week. Again, this is all speculation for the Riders. If you are Winnipeg, Caleros, try not to throw any interceptions, please. If you're Winnipeg as well, good God, get at least one pick against Trevor Harris. The talent is absolutely there. And I think getting more tackles for loss, having that defensive line be able to put a little bit more pressure on Trevor Harris than they did last game would definitely be ideal.
I'm going to bring this up because we put this on another team earlier on in the season, but I'm going to say this for good old shits and giggles. If Saskatchewan loses this game, how are they going to lose this time? Because they seem like they have the sickness of what Edmonton had, and when they were on that losing streak, they always found a different way to lose. First, the one game it was Brett Lothar missing three.
Here's the thing:
field goals.
If Straveller plays, it'll be something along the lines of Brett Lothar missing field goals, or them giving up touchdowns on special teams, or them throwing picks, something along those regards. Okay.
Okay.
If Caleros plays, none of that matters. Again, if Caleros plays, I think this would be the best game Caleros plays this year. If you look at his track record, if you look how he plays when he's a little angry, if you look how he plays during clutch, and you could argue the entire Banjo Bowl needs to be clutch in terms of the importance of this game to the fans in Winnipeg. Zach Caleros, that's where, in my opinion, he shows up. Again, a lot of questions I know about Zach Caleros. A lot of the wondering if he's washed, if he's this, if he's that. Say what you want about Zach Caleros, his performance this season, all the mistakes he's made a ton of them. Banjo Bowl is where he zones in. So if Zach Caleros plays, Saskatchewan could throw 5 picks or no picks, and I don't think it makes much of a difference. So maybe a bit of a bold take in my regard, but that is my opinion. And I say that knowing it is a biased opinion. I will fully admit that. But
so here's the interesting note before we go to our picks is next week, the only West teams that play next week is BC and Calgary.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone else has a bye. Saskatchewan then plays Calgary. Ottawa is the only East team that they play left. Then they play Edmonton, home and home. Bye week, Calgary. That's it. So the question is, because Calgary and Edmonton are on their tail, because one of them is going to win this week between the Battle of Alberta.
Yep.
Could you, if they don't get it out of this slump, could you think of Saskatchewan possibly missing the playoffs if they don't get out of this slump?
It's possible. I actually see Edmonton having a better chance against Saskatchewan than Calgary. However,
no. I'm just saying, because they've lost what?
Well, I mean, if they lose this game, is it possible they keep losing? Yeah, because they haven't shown what it takes to win. In that regard, if that's what we're going off of,
they've lost.
Could the losing streak continue? Yes, because it still is continuing. So. The same way that, could the Alouettes win? Yes, because they're still winning. It goes both ways.
No, I'm just saying, they gotta do some soul searching, because if this losing streak continues for Saskatchewan, I could see them missing the playoffs.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where that would be, surely that would be crushing in the fan of every. In every Riders fans, in the sense of, I mean, how much hope did this Riders fandom have in Corey Mace when he got here and he had that incredible start to the season? A lot, and understandably so. I mean, look what he did with that team and got that team going. If you're Saskatchewan, whatever it was that you had then, you got to find that. As a Bomber fan, I hope they don't. But in terms of from a Rider fan perspective, that's definitely what they'd be looking for.
So worst case scenario, they could end up, if they lost the rest of their games. The worst that they can do is 5-12-1. The best that they can do if they've somehow win every game of the rest of the regular season is 11-6-1.
Yeah. And
because they only have 6 games left.
well,
I
think it's
could
time
see
we make
them
our
going
predictions.
8-9. I could see them going 500 and finishing 8-9-1.
I
But
could see
does
that.
8-9-1 get you a playoff spot? Who
In the
knows?
West, who bloody knows? In this economy? Oh my goodness, man. So here's the thing. Rick, who are you taking? Because I know we know who I'm taking. I'm taking the Blue Bombers. I'm taking Winnipeg.
So this is the hard part because if Zach Claros plays, I want to go Winnipeg.
And I think
If
I
Chris
think he will
Streveler
play.
plays,
We have to remember, Zach Collaros did not go into concussion protocol. And ever since Zach Collaros' injury history before he got to the Bombers have been very, very careful and have had, at times, removed him out of straight up just precautionary measures.
yeah, but who? But the question was, who removed him? Was it the center or was it the team?
Here's the thing. So he gets shaken. What I mean that not the injury spotter, and I'll tell you why. Because Zach Collaros takes a knee there on that play afterwards, gets checked out. What I'm saying is that at that point he's on the sidelines. Him not getting put back out there is equivalent to him essentially getting pulled off for precautionary reasons. O'Shea could put him out there whenever he wants after that, if he's healthy. Or if he's, on the fence about it, but he doesn't go into concussion protocol. There's nothing necessarily saying that he can't go out besides just Zach Collaros saying how he feels. At the end of the day, with him not going into concussion protocol, that tells me that was Coach Mike O'Shea's decision to keep him out. And at the end of the day, it was the right decision. Winnipeg wins that game. And they make sure that Collaros doesn't take another one of those shots. Which he very well might have received. I'm not going to lie. I am kind of shocked that we're now already at Tuesday evening and we haven't heard about a fine or suspension on Brown. As in my opinion,
I'm sure we will.
Fine has to be at least a minimum. I'm not going to lie. I think suspension is warranted, as he has every opportunity to get out of this hit, and he doesn't. And not only that, he doesn't try. There's no attempt to avoid it. He actively leans his shoulder into the head of Zach Collaros. And I don't think you can really dispute that. If you look at the pictures, of basically exactly what you're saying. If you look at the video, it's exactly what it is. So I expect that the league will do something about it. Again, I think suspension is warranted in this instance, especially with it being now the second straight year that this crap has happened. I'm going with my Bombers.
So I'm gonna base this off of Zach Claros not playing because again we don't have an injury report.
That's true.
On Winnipeg, plus Adam Bighill is injured.
Adam Bighill's gonna be out. He will be.
So
Goche will play in his spot. However, it'll be Goche who goes into that spot because you'll have Tony Jones and Cramdy as your two outside linebackers, and then Goche is that backup middle linebacker. Goche, in terms of backups the Bombers have, Goche is definitely one of the most capable ones. And I have no problem with Goche going into that spot. I love Goche. It's one of those things where I think realistically, when Bighill retires, which will happen eventually, he's one of the guys kind of getting up in age. I don't see the Bombers looking for another middle linebacker. I see them actually rolling with Goche full time. With Bighill being out, get healthy soon, and till then, it's Goche's time to shine in that spot.
I still want to pick Winnipeg, but just something tells me that Claros.
Pick who you want to pick. At the end of the day, as much as I'm picking Winnipeg, that's my pick. You pick.
Listen,
who you think.
we can't all pick the same teams. So far, we've picked the same teams. I'm going to change it up, and I'm going to go Saskatchewan.
Fair enough. It worked for me
Even
last week.
though
Let's
players
hope it
could
works
be.
for me again this week. But with that, Rick, that leaves us with one more game.
Battle
The
of
rematch
Alberta.
from Labor Day, the other rematch from Labor Day, the Battle of Alberta, this time in Commonwealth Stadium. The Calgary Stampeders take on the Edmonton Elks in Edmonton. And here's the thing: if you're the Stampeders, how do you recover after last game? I mean, Jake Mayer, 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions. His completion attempts ratio actually isn't that bad. His yardage isn't even that bad. But 4 picks, just not what you're looking for. And it's crazy because overall there's 2 problems with there's 2 big problems of Calgary's game. Last week. Interceptions and the running game. I'm not saying that those are the only 2 problems. I'm saying those are 2 key problems when we're talking about the offense for Calgary, okay? As you can't throw 4 picks in a game and expect to win. That's hard. Another thing, if we're looking at this receiving core, 118 yards for Reggie Begelton, 75 for Jalen Philpott, Hill with 68, Hyman with 42 on 4 receptions. That right there tells me that this receiving core, is a very capable receiving core. And that's not just from this game, but just from what we had seen. Hyman, he's been able to have a good season, leading up to this, Ishmael Hyman. And so he's a guy that I definitely could see stepping up if they're able to really, really get that going. But again, those 4 picks, it's hard to turn the ball over 4 times in a game and still expect to win. In addition to that, the pass defense, for
Calgary.
the Calgary Stampeders. Somebody call the search party because I don't know where the fuck that was. Seriously, 486 yards in our Lord's year 2024 in 3-down football. To Bethel Thompson. Not saying that Bethel Thompson's a bad quarterback. He's not. He's a good quarterback. But Trey Ford, in my opinion, has shown that he's the starter. And Bethel Thompson, he's filling in those reins for the time being. And man, he is really looking for that job security with almost 500 yards. How do you do that? He was barely above 66%. Tevin Jones over 200 yards. Giddens Jr. over 100. Eugene Lewis over 100. 2 touchdowns for Jones, 1 for Eugene Lewis. And Dean Faithful plays, he misses a real easy one. Hits a 41. Again, capable kicker. I think he just needs a little bit more time there. And that was without them even really throwing to Hergy Mayala. Mayala, who's, in my opinion, is being kind of a bit of a breakout receiver here in Edmonton, and a guy that, if you're Edmonton, I think you should look to keep this guy around, as I could see him being a real future piece of this core with the Elks. Javon Leake only runs 53 yards, but it doesn't matter when the entire field, Bethel Thompson apparently owns the entire thing, because that's certainly what it seemed like. Man, if you're Calgary, that's like, you gotta win, lose, or draw. You gotta put up a better effort than that. As you just gave up so much.
It's funny because how we were just talking about the standings.
Yeah.
Listen to Calgary's the rest of their schedule before we go into this game.
Yeah.
They're at Edmonton. They have a bye. Then they play. Oh, sorry, no. They're at Edmonton, home to Montreal, home to Saskatchewan. Then they have a bye. Then they're at BC. Then they play host to Edmonton. Then they're at Hamilton. Then they finish off against Saskatchewan. My Lord, how many more interceptions is Jake Mayer going to throw before the end of the season?
I don't know. I really
they will even be lucky if they even win 2 more games this season.
So here's the thing: is Calera still leading the league in interceptions?
I will take a look.
Because Jake Mayer got 4 last game, so he
Um,
definitely moved
so
up.
so Jake Mayer is actually third with 11.
And he got 4 of them in one game. Holy crap.
Yeah. Mitchell has 12.
Yep.
Zach Claro has 13. I want to say Jake Mayer will be in the lead in interceptions by the end of this week.
So you think he throws 3 picks?
I say he will throw.
And that's a I don't know if I'd
Yes.
say in the lead. I'd say he'd move his way up. I think
I would
realistically,
say
Jake
at
Mayer.
least 2.
I think Jake Mayer is destined to throw at least 2. I was gonna say that too. Jake Mayer in this game is destined to throw at least 2. It could be up to 4, but it's at least 2. I don't see him throwing just 1 or
And
nothing.
and my hope is, let me just do this
Like,
here.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't like as much as there's talent on the Stamps team. I don't believe Dickinson is the answer at head coach. Personally, I'm not as a head coach. Like I'm not a fan of his style of head coach. Like it just I don't know. It just doesn't jive with me. I'm just not really not feeling it. I don't know.
Well, here's the thing. So, for Jake Mayer to overtake Bo Levi Mitchell in passing yards, he has to throw 462 yards this game.
Okay, the only problem with that is that that's not happening.
I mean,
The only problem is that that's not happening.
I know that makes me happy, but this will be one of those games that Jake Mayer throws like 45 passes.
Yeah, well, it's funny because that to me seems like the Dickinson approach. The thing that hurt you last game, do more of it and hope it doesn't hurt you. Um, and so, like, throws 4 picks, and then we're like, you know what we're going to do to fix that problem? We're going to have him throw 45 passes. Let's see if those picks go down.
So, if Calgary can somehow not lose by a lot this week, let's say Calgary somehow lose, their defense gives up 40 points this week.
Yeah.
That means that they're only 20 points off of being the worst defense in the league. But enough of that shenanigans. I'm going with Edmonton.
I'm going with Edmonton too. So here's the question, Rick.
Yes.
Is there anything else we got to do? I think that's pretty much all we got, isn't it?
I don't know about you, but I want to give a little shout out to the Canadian Countdown Football Podcast.
Go for it. Yeah.
Because in their fantasy league, I am 13-0, and no one has yet to beat me. And I'm the reigning champion from last year.
Fair enough. If I'm looking here, I'm not in fantasy. However, I am
How's your
in my pick'ems. So the guy in first has 93. Keep in mind, there's 2 points for a win, 0 points for a loss, and then 2 bonus points in a week if you go 3-1, and 4 bonus points added on if you go 4-0. Guy in first place, I'm not going to name names. I'm going to name drop people. Has 93 points. Guy in second has 73. And then there's a 2-way tie for third with 75. Then in fourth, there's a guy with 71. And then there's a 2-way tie in fifth between me and someone else, both with 69 points. So
is it safe to say the guy in first is going to win it? Because he has like a 20-point
probably.
lead.
However, there also is at the beginning of the year, at the halfway point, at the start of playoffs, and right before the game, there is 4 Grey Cup predictions where you have to predict who's in the game and who the winner is. Except for the last one where you already know who's in the game and you predict the winner. And those, I don't know how much those are worth. I can't remember. I think they're worth a bit more. And I also think they're worth more like scale in the sense of if you did it at like the start of the year, that one's worth a lot. If you did it at like the halfway point, it's worth like
Yeah.
A little bit less. And like, so I don't know how all that works. The guy in first probably has it. However, I've seen people in this be in third, and there's one guy who is in third in this who is now at 10th. So you know what? Anything's possible. And I've slowly but surely been rising back up after having a little bit of a weaker start. As I am now in my pick'ems here. I am 28-3-1. I think we both are, right? At least that's what he has recorded on here.
23. No, we are
28-3-1.
28-23-1.
28-23-1. That's what I mean, not 3-1. 28-23-1. There's been more games than that. All right, so make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe if you have not already. Hit the little notification bell. Helps out the channel a ton. And then also, all you wonderful people listening on Spotify, if you can give us 5 stars there, I would really, really appreciate that. I've already seen a few of you have done that. And really, really appreciate it. We want to get that Spotify going up. Our YouTube has been going really, really well. And one thing that happened a few days ago that I forgot to mention in the other video. Thank you so much for 1,600 subscribers. We're at 1,605 as we currently speak right now. All you wonderful people have kept on watching and subscribing to all our wonderful content. All the wonderful people who watch our Week 13 Labor Day preview got that video going up really, really well. And I'm sure the review is going to go up pretty well. It just went up 3 hours ago as of time of recording this. So I'm sure.
Oh my God. Well. I think I'm
and
not
also big thanks to everyone who supported CFL Fans Fight Cancer. You guys can still donate to that. You guys can check out our CFL Fans Fight Cancer video. Pink thumbnail, hard to miss it, in the description for that video. You guys can make any sort of donations in the link in the description of that video to CFL Fans Fight Cancer. Please do it. It is a wonderful cause. And yeah.
Carter, I think our review this week for Week 13 was our longest video in
a long time. In channel history. Oh, I don't know about that. I think we might have done
an hour and an hour and a half.
I think we did one that was like 2 hours one time, and it was just like a random league update in the middle of the off season. I thought, yep, CFL league-wide free agency. It was an hour and 51 minutes. This was 7 months ago. This is when Austin Mack first went to the NFL. But that was a once in a blue moon video.
True.
But in terms of just in the middle of the season, I think this is the longest one. But I'm sure all the wonderful people.
Also, is there not another event that's going to be happening this week?
What do you mean?
Yes.
Am I? Oh yes. We have a player interview that's going to be happening. It's going to be conducted on Thursday, and we'll be going live on Friday. Of Terry Williams, not the returner for the BC Lions. A bit of an important distinction. There are 2 Terry Williams. He is a former player for the Calgary Stampeders and the Edmonton Elks. He had won the Grey Cup, I believe it was the 106th Grey Cup with the Calgary Stampeders. We're going to be having him on Thursday. So if you have any questions for him, leave that in the comment section down below or on any of the socials, Twitter, Instagram, you name it. Whatever it is, leave those comments all around. And so if you guys got any questions for him, maybe how heavy is the Grey Cup? All that kind of, all those kind of fun questions.
Oh, you know what? I'm gonna bring up what is Bo actually like, because you got to remember, I think Bo was the quarterback in 20.
Oh yeah, he was. Yeah, no, he was leading the charge in the Stamps team.
But so we shall see.
So again, thank you guys so much for watching the video. Peace, love, and positivity. Make sure you guys also subscribe. Really appreciate that. What is it, Rick? Peace, love, and prosperity, or whatever you're gonna misquote me. Peace, love, and positivity, and we will see you guys next time.